Hungarian Folk Tales. The Poor Cobbler and the King of the Winds. There was once a poor cobbler who toiled all day and all night and had more children than there are holes in a sieve. One day he mended the shoes of a miller, who paid him with flour, and he was carrying the flour home when the wind blew all the flour away. Well, that's too much. I'll go and find the King of the Winds to let him know it was heartless to take that sack of flour away from me. He made his way through many lands until he arrived at a beautiful meadow. There he saw a whirlwind approaching that blew the dust from the road up into a spiralling cloud, and the poor cobbler was so very afraid that he took his hat off and lay flat on the ground to save himself from the raging wind. "You are wise to recognize and bow down before my power," said the King of the Winds, "or else you would have fared much worse. Tell me, what brings you to this distant place?" "I came for compensation from you, Your Majesty. The other day I was paid a sack of flour, and I was just carrying it home when a youthful breeze blew it clean out of my hands, and now my family have no food to eat." "Leave that to me. That wicked wind will suffer for its deeds, but I will not let you suffer any longer." So the king led the poor cobbler into his palace, where he fed him and gave him a magical lamb. Then he said, "When you arrive home, simply say, 'Shake yourself, O lamb,' and the lamb will shake off enough money to keep you for a month. But beware not to try this before you arrive home." The poor cobbler took leave from the King of the Winds and left for home. But his curiosity overcame him, and he simply had to see what the little lamb could do. As soon as he uttered the word of command, the ground around the lamb was showered with gold coins. He soon reached his lodgings for the night in the house of a very old friend, and he warned his friend never to say, "Shake yourself, O lamb." But the poor cobbler had hardly fallen asleep when his host and his wife ordered the beast, "Shake yourself, O lamb." When they saw the gold coins scatter on the ground, they took the animal and replaced it with a lamb from their own flock. The poor cobbler woke the next morning, but failed to notice the change. He thanked the man and his wife and left for home with high hopes in his heart. When he eventually arrived back, he said, "Shake yourself, O lamb." He repeated the order a number of times, but the little lamb simply stood and stared back at him. The cobbler then set off again to visit the King of the Winds, and he was very angry. He marched straight to the palace to voice his complaint. "I am sure you did not take my advice, and you must have spoken to the lamb before you reached home. But this time I will give you a tablecloth, and all you have to say is, 'Fill yourself with fine fare, O tablecloth,' and it will be covered in food. But do not be tempted to try this before you arrive home." But the poor cobbler was too curious again, and he tried the tablecloth. When evening came, he took lodging with his friend again, and he said to him, "You mustn't tell my tablecloth to fill itself with fine fare." The friend and his wife could hardly wait for the cobbler to sleep that night. They gave the order at once, and when they found out what a valuable tablecloth he had, they exchanged it for one of their own. The next day he arrived home and became terribly angry when he ordered the tablecloth again and again, but nothing happened. Again the poor cobbler travelled hastily back to see the King of the Winds, who was waiting for him when he arrived and presented him with a small cane. He told him he should not tell the cane to "Turn around cleverly, O cane," before he arrived home again. The poor cobbler could barely wait to find out what the cane would do, and so he quickly said, "Turn around cleverly, O cane." The cane hopped up and began to beat him hard. The poor cobbler cried out in pain, "Stop!" and the clever cane stopped beating him at once. Now the poor cobbler knew what to do with the cane. On his way home, he stayed with his old friend again. He warned the man and his wife not to say, "Turn around cleverly, O Cain." But his wife's friend woke her husband at midnight. They took the cane into their room and she said, "Turn around cleverly, O Cain, once for me and once for my husband." The poor cobbler was quickly woken by their cries. "I told you not to address my cane, but it seems that you are the guilty one, so let it beat you as it will." "Oh, we promised to return both the lamb and the tablecloth." Then the poor cobbler ordered the cane to stop. But the friend and his wife did not wait for the cane to beat them again, and they hurried forth with the poor cobbler's lamb and his tablecloth, who took them home to his family, who never wanted for money or food again. And they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. One-eyed, two-eyed, three-eyed. Once upon a time there lived a woman who had 3 daughters. The eldest daughter had 3 eyes, the middle one had 1 eye, and the youngest had 2 eyes. One day the woman decided to marry off her daughters. A young man arrived seeking a bride, but he wanted to marry the youngest daughter with 2 eyes. But the woman wanted to marry off her eldest daughter first. The woman and the 2 elder girls became very angry with the youngest. They had a goat, and the youngest girl had to watch the goat in the fields every day. The youngest daughter was very sad because her sisters hated her and did not give her any food to eat. She was crying in the fields one day, and the goat asked her, "Why are you so sad, my dear?" "I am sad and cry because my sisters hate me so much and they give me no food to eat." "Don't be sad, I shall help you. Whenever you feel hungry, just tell me, 'Little goat, come here and lay me a table, dear.'" The youngest daughter did as the goat said, and from then on she left for the fields every morning in the best of moods. The sisters soon began to wonder why the youngest one no longer asked for food. And they decided to spy on her. On the first day, the one-eyed daughter went with her 2-eyed sister to the fields to see what she did there all day. Both daughters sat down in the grass. "Lean your head in my lap," said the 2-eyed daughter to her 1-eyed sister. And as she lay down, her sister began to ask, "Are you awake or are you asleep, my sister?" And she kept on asking this until the 1-eyed sister fell fast asleep. Then the 2-eyed daughter said, "Little goat, come here and lay me a table, dear." time the one-eyed daughter woke again, the goat had cleared away all the food, including the table. When she returned home, the one-eyed daughter reported that she had seen nothing at all. The next day it was decided that the three-eyed daughter should accompany her two-eyed sister to the fields. So the two girls went out to the fields with the goat. The three-eyed girl leaned her head into her sister's lap, and the two-eyed daughter began to recite. "Are you awake or are you asleep, my three-eyed sister?" Then the three-eyed daughter closed two of her eyes, but her sister did not see that her third eye stayed open, and she began to say, "Little goat, come here and lay a table for me, dear." The three-eyed daughter pretended to be fast asleep, and when she awoke, she did not tell her sister what she had learned while sleeping. At home, she told everything to her mother and sister. The youngest daughter became very sad when the three women decided to kill her pet goat. That night, she dreamt that an old man told her to ask for the hooves and horns of the goat and plant them behind the door without letting anyone see. So that is what she did. By morning, a fine apple tree had grown on that very spot. And no one could pick an apple from its branches except the two-eyed daughter. When the young man came, he asked the one-eyed daughter and the three-eyed daughter to pick him a golden apple from the tree, but neither could do it because the branches always pulled away from their grasp. They made the two-eyed sister hide under the bed, and she was not allowed to come out whenever the young man visited the house. But one day she rolled a golden apple out from under the bed, and the young man asked, "How did this apple roll here? Who rolled it here? I demand to see who did this thing." The two sisters said, "She is a dirty little nothing, and you should not waste your eyes on her." Then the young man looked under the bed and saw the two-eyed daughter he loved so very much. He took her by the hand and led her away, saying that she must be his wife and no other. Off they went, and the two sisters stayed at home. If they had not stayed at home, my story would have lasted longer still. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Giant Tree. Once upon a time, long ago and far away, there lived a king who had a beautiful daughter. The king had a wonderful garden full of flowers and with a giant tree in the middle. One day, the princess was strolling in the garden when a wind blew so strongly that it nearly blew the giant tree to the ground. But instead, it whisked the princess up and sat her right on top of the tree. The king let it be known that he would give his daughter and half of his kingdom to the brave man who brought his daughter back. Young men, brave and tall, came one after the other, but none of them could climb the tree. One broke his arm, one his leg, and the other his neck. The king had a young swineherd called John. The swineherd was in the forest one day with his pigs when one of them came up to him and said, "John, you should rescue the princess." "What foolish talk, little pig." "It's not foolish at all. Just go to the king and tell him." So young John went to see the king that same evening. "What's the matter, my boy?" "Your Majesty, I will climb the giant tree and rescue your daughter if you will allow." "I will allow you, John, but if you fall to your death, or else I will have you executed for insolence." "Your Royal Highness, please have a mighty buffalo killed and have 7 pairs of boots and 7 coats made from its thick hide, and I shall return when they are all worn through." John climbed up the tree with an axe, and he climbed as quickly as a cat. He climbed and climbed until he reached the longest branch, and then he crawled as he could no longer walk. When he reached the end of the branch, he jumped on one of the giant leaves, and it launched him up through the clouds like a sprightly frog. The world above was much the same as the one below. He was exploring this new place when he heard the princess asking him, "What are you doing here, John?" "I'm looking for you, princess." "Oh, John, you should know that my husband is a dragon with 3 fierce heads. When he finds out that you have come to take me home, he will kill you at once." Then she took young John into the palace. "John, I shall hide you here so that he will not find you when he comes home. Then I shall present you to him properly." The dragon soon returned home, and he opened the door with his mighty battle axe, and it flew open. "I smell a stranger here. Who was in my home?" "Don't be angry, husband dear. My swineherd climbed up from the earth below to serve me here." "Well, we shall see whether we can use you or not. Take a seat and eat with me." John ate and drank, and so did the dragon. After their meal, the dragon took John to the stables, where he showed him the horses and explained his chores. A young horse lay in the corner in a miserable state. It was thin and very weak, while all the other horses were incredibly fat. The dragon said to John, "Your job, John, is to feed my horses and keep the stables clean. But never feed the young horse anything it wants to eat. If it wants oats, give it hay, and if it wants hay, give it water." So the boy did as the dragon told him. One day the dragon went out to hunt when John was feeding the horses. He stopped for a moment and asked the thin horse, "You poor thing, why are you so thin? You can't even walk." "John, you have a good heart. If you listen to me, you will have good fortune. I know why you came. Tomorrow is Sunday. Go to the princess and tell her to find out from the dragon where he holds his strength, and then let me know." And that's what he did. The next day, the princess said to the dragon, "Darling dragon, don't go hunting today. I feel so lonely without you. and she began to caress the dragon. The dragon was happy as he thought the woman loved him, but she loved him as much as she loved horse manure. Dear husband, do not deny an answer to a question of mine. What do you want to ask, dear wife? I only want to know where you keep your strength. Oh, dear wife, no one else should know about that except me. If you don't tell me, you don't really love me. But I do love you, dear. If you loved me, you would tell me. Look, my darling, this is a great secret. No one must know about it. People always say that once a woman and a man are married, they should have no secrets any longer. Very well, I will tell you, but you must not tell another soul. There is a silver bear living in the forest. It goes to the stream every day at noon to take a drink. If someone cut its head in two, a rabbit would jump out. If someone shot the rabbit and cut its head in two, then a box would jump out of that. There are 9 wasps in the box. If someone destroyed that box and killed the wasps, then I would become weaker than a fly. The wife kissed him and brought him a jug of strong red wine. Let's drink to your health. They filled their glasses, and the dragon drank his glass of wine in one mighty gulp. The princess pretended to drink her wine, but did not, and poured the wine on the floor. Well, said the dragon, let's now drink a glass of wine to your health. The dragon drank the wine, and the princess did not, but she poured it down her dress. Then the princess said, now let's drink to John's good health. When they drank the next glass of wine, the princess could see that the dragon was getting drunk. Dear husband, let's drink another glass of wine to the long life we shall live together. So they did. Then the dragon fell down like a log. The princess called John in. John, now I know where he keeps his strength. After she told him the story, he went out to the stable and told the story to the horse. Go and build a fire from wood, and after the fire has died down, bring me the hot embers. And that's what John did. The horse ate the hot ashes and said to John, and now let me out of the stable. And that's what John did. The horse ate the hot embers, and then it transformed into a stallion with a golden mane and 5 legs. John, run down into the cellar. There you will find a golden saddle and a suit made of golden thread. Put the suit on, and then take the saddle and put it on my back. You will also find a sword hanging on a nail. You must take that too. John did as he was told. When they arrived, the silver bear was drinking at the stream. The silver bear saw them and tried to attack. The horse said, don't be afraid, John. Be brave. When the dragon's strength was finally crushed, the horse said, now let's go home. There is nothing to be afraid of anymore. So back they went and found the dragon lying weak on the floor. Now both get on my back, because I will take you home. The king was old and frail when they arrived back. John approached him and said, Your Majesty, I have brought your daughter home. Here I am, father dear. The princess embraced the king, and they both shed tears of joy. Even brave young John was seen to cry. John, you will be the king from now on. I give you my daughter, I give you my kingdom, I give you everything I possess. John married the pretty princess, and they both lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Princess, 3 Pigs, and 3 Birthmarks. Once upon a time, there lived a poor man who had a wife. After a time, they had saved enough money to buy a piglet. They enjoyed rearing their piglet very much, but their happiness was not complete. They still did not have a child of their own. One day, the wife told her husband, "I think I might be pregnant." "Maybe you are mistaken." After a few days, the husband said to his wife, "I think the pig might be pregnant." "Maybe you are mistaken. It must have eaten too much and its belly is fat." The months passed and their son was born. The man was happy. He went to the pigsty to feed the pig, and what did he see there? 3 little piglets had also been born that day. Everyone in the house was happy. As the young boy grew up, he took the pigs to graze in the meadow at the end of the king's garden. The boy had a flute, and he liked to play it for the pigs to dance. One day, the young princess saw the pigs dancing in the meadow below. "For how much will you sell me a dancing pig?" "For no money at all if you lift your skirt to your knee." "What use is that to you? Would you rather not have a bag of gold?" But the boy said he did not want the gold. Then the princess suddenly changed her mind and lifted up her skirt to her knee. And the boy gave her a pig. When he arrived home in the evening, his father asked the boy, "Where is the missing pig?" "The wolf has taken it. He will pay the price." The boy returned to the king's garden with his pigs the very next day, where the princess saw him and asked again, "For how much money will you sell me a second dancing pig? For the first one will not dance alone." "For no money at all if you lift your skirt up to your waist." "Would you rather not have a bag of gold?" But the boy said he did not want the gold. The princess hesitated for a second and then pulled her skirt up to her waist. And the boy gave her the second pig. When the boy arrived home that night, his father asked, "Where is the second missing pig?" "The wolf has taken him. It will pay the price." On the third day, the boy went back to the same place with his last pig, where he found the princess waiting for him. "For how much will you sell me the third dancing pig, because the first 2 will not dance without the third?" "For no money at all if you lift your skirt up to your neck." Then the boy gave her the third pig along with his flute. When the boy arrived home that night, his father asked, "Where is the third missing pig?" "The wolf took it, father. It said it would pay the price." "The wolf has no money." "It has, father. It has a lot. And now I shall go and collect the price for the pigs." When the boy arrived at the palace gates, a guard asked him, "What do you want here, little boy?" "I came to the princess to get the price for my pigs." The guard went to the princess and told her that a boy had come to be paid for the 3 pigs. The princess simply said, "Fill a bag with gold and give it to him." The boy arrived home again and poured all the gold out onto a table. The boy's mother and father had never seen so much money in their lives before. The next day, the king announced that his daughter had 3 birthmarks on her body, and any man who could tell him where they were could marry her. But any man who made a mistake would be beaten for his troubles. Hearing this, the boy said, "Father, go to the market and buy me the strongest horse, the finest saddle, a beautiful suit and a silver sword, but do not bargain and pay the proper price." And off the boy set for the royal palace. As he was riding, he met a prince and a young baron, who asked the boy, "Where are you going, young knight?" I'm riding where I like. What is your name? It is what it is. Look, let's ride with him. He knows a lot of jokes. And from then on, they called him the Joker. As they were riding, the sun set and they found themselves on the shore of a large lake. After the boy fell asleep, the prince and the baron drove a stick into the centre of the lake and fastened the boy's horse to it. When the boy woke, he saw what they had done to his horse, but he did not say a word. But he cut the hide on the legs of the other horses and rolled it up to the knee. Then he fell asleep again. When morning came, they shouted, "Get up, Joker! You are a lazy fellow. Look, your horse swam to the middle of the lake to quench its thirst." "That's right, and yours rolled their trousers up to go and save it." All three reached the palace the next day. There were many princes, barons and gypsies gathered, but none of them knew where the princess had her birthmarks, and each received 60 strokes of the cane for his troubles. The baron thought it best to go in with the boy, as he might find out the answers. The boy said, "Venus is shining on her delicate belly." "That's right," said the king. "Why did you say that? That was exactly what I wanted to say." "The sun and the moon radiate their beams from her bosoms." "That's right," came the reply. "That was exactly what I wanted to say," said the young baron. The courtiers began to discuss the result. Their decision was that the princess and the three young men should go to the same bed, and the one she turns to will be her husband. And that's what they did. The boy had a good stock of sweets and cakes in his pockets, and he ate them noisily. "What are you eating?" the baron asked. "The heel of my boot." "Take off your boot and eat its heel." So the baron tore the heel off his boot and offered a part to the princess. "Please have some, my dear." The princess could not chew the leathery heel, and she kicked the baron out of the bed. Then she turned towards the boy, who gave her sweets and cakes. The next morning the door was opened and they saw that only the boy was in the bed, while the baron hid in shame. The baron got 60 strokes for feeding the princess with the heel of his boot, and another 60 strokes because he did not know the whereabouts of her birthmarks. And so the boy married the princess, and they had a fabulous feast, and all were invited, both rich and poor. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Mayor's Clever Daughter. As many people know, Hungary's King Matthias liked to roam the country. Once he walked into a tiny village to see how the local people lived. There was an inscription on the gate of the mayor's house that read, "Here lives the village mayor. Here he lives with no trouble or care." King Matthias made a note of these words and scribbled the mayor's address down in a little book. "If your life's so carefree, Mr. Mayor, then it's my job to give you something to worry about," he thought. Then the king returned home. Back in those days, jugs were made out of clay. and one of the king's jugs had a hole in it. So King Matthias sent the jug down to the mayor, saying that he should mend the jug, or else have his head chopped off. The village mayor received both the jug and the message. He was very sad because he really did not know what to do. The mayor had a pretty daughter who asked her father, "Dear father, I've never seen you worry like this before. What on earth's wrong? Why are you so very sad?" "Why should I bother telling you? You could never help." "But perhaps I can help after all. His Majesty the King has sent me a jug with a hole in it, with an order to mend it. But if I cannot fulfill his command, he'll have my head chopped clean off." "Oh, father, please don't be so sad. Send the jug back to the king with a message that he should turn the jug inside out, as material is always mended on the other side." Very well. And he sent the jug back with the message. This was a brilliant idea because the jug could never be turned inside out. After this, the king sent a millstone and ordered the mayor to skin it. This made the mayor even sadder, because it's impossible to skin a millstone. His daughter asked the mayor, "Why are you so sad again, father dear?" "My sweetest daughter, you definitely won't be able to help me this time, but perhaps I can help you after all. His Majesty has sent me a millstone and ordered me to skin it. If I do not obey him, I shall have my head lopped off. But it's really not a problem at all. Write a letter to the king asking him to have the millstone slaughtered, because no beast can be skinned before it's had its throat cut, and so the king should do the same to the millstone first." So the mayor sent the millstone back to the king with that message. The idea proved to be brilliant, and so this time the king ordered him to visit him at the palace. The village mayor went up to the palace where he thought he would be rewarded. But instead, the king wanted to know who had given him these inventive ideas, and so the mayor was forced to confess. "I have a pretty daughter at home who helped me solve those two riddles." "Very well, Mayor. I want you to go home and tell your daughter to come to my palace. She should wear no dress, but should not be naked, and she should not walk, should not ride, and should not come in a carriage. She also should, but should not bring me a gift." Head chopped off. So the mayor went home in very low spirits. He was convinced that his young daughter would never be able to solve such a complex riddle. The mayor told his daughter what the king had said, and then he added, "This is the end for you, my darling girl." "Why so, father dear?" "The king said you have to go to the palace. You should not wear a dress. You should not be naked. You should not walk. You should not ride. You should not go by coach. You should take him a gift, and at the same time, you should not take him a gift." "Very good, father. I shall go. Don't worry. Everything will be fine." So the girl took off her dress, but kept on her bra. Thus she was not wearing a dress, but at the same time, she was not naked. Then she took a billy goat and put one of her feet on the back of the goat and walked on one foot on the edge of the road. She then took a white dove and carried it in her hand, and this is how she went to the palace to see the king. When the king saw the girl, he was very surprised. Then the girl spoke to the king and said, "Your Majesty, I present myself upon your order." "This is your gift," she said, and let the dove fly away. Thus she took, and she did not take a gift. Then the king said, "Everything is fine, my girl, but tell me, why did you not hide your private parts instead of your bosoms?" And the girl replied, "Your Royal Highness, my private parts were created by God, but I grew my bosoms myself. I am ashamed of them, and that's why I hid them." The king gave the girl a handsome reward, and that is the end of my story. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Fox Princess. Once upon a time there was an old king, and he had 3 sons. The king was so old that he could not leave his castle, and so he had a church built in the grounds where he could pray. On the day that the church was at last complete, a bird began to sing on top of its tower. When the king heard the bird's song, he suddenly became a young man once more, and he ordered his sons to catch the bird. The eldest son climbed to the top of the tower, but as soon as he reached out to catch the bird, it flew away. The prince watched the bird as it flew, and he saw it land in a nearby forest. "Father, I saw where the bird flew. I shall pursue it. Godspeed, my son, and return with the bird as soon as you can." The young prince arrived at the forest as the sun began to set. He made a fire and ate his supper. Then he saw a fox. "Go, dog, and catch that fox." The fox stood and commanded, "May you and your dog turn to stone." So that is what happened. The next morning, the middle son climbed to the tower to catch the bird. He saw the same thing that his brother had seen, and as he came down from the tower, he said, "I too shall follow the bird." He reached the forest by sunset and also sat and ate his supper, and as he ate, he saw the fox. "Go, dog, and catch that fox." The fox stood and commanded, "May you and your dog turn to stone." On the third morning, the bird sang again, and so the youngest prince climbed the tower, but the bird flew away once more. The youngest son saw the same forest that his brothers had seen. He also followed the bird's flight and arrived at the forest as the sun was setting. He also made a fire and sat and ate his supper. Then he saw the fox. "Fine fox, do not bark. Come and share my food instead." "I would join you with pleasure, but I am afraid of your dog." "Don't be afraid. I shall tie it to a tree." "Prince, do you think the bird is in this tree?" "That's what I think. I saw it fly right here." "But that is not so. The bird is very far away, and don't be sad because we shall catch it." "The bird is in the land of the Red King, and that is 7 lands away. There is a pear tree in the garden of the king, and in that tree there is a hollow, and in that hollow lives the bird." Then the fox turned into a fine young man, and the 2 of them set forth. After many days and nights, they arrived at the city where the Red King lived. And as they approached the royal garden, the fox said, This is the pear tree, Prince. It won't be hard to catch the bird, but there is one difficulty. As you climb down the tree, try not to bite a pear because the tree will make such a noise that it will wake all the guards in the royal palace. As the prince climbed back down the tree, he took a breath and opened his mouth so wide that a pear popped between his teeth and he bit on it by chance. The guards ran to the garden and caught the young prince. The Red King said, "I see you are a prince. I should have you executed, but I will spare your life on one condition." What would that be? There is a beautiful palace on the shores of the Red Sea. In that palace lives a beautiful princess. If you bring her here, I will pardon you. I have one life, I have one death. I shall do my best. Again you took a difficult task. I won't let you do it alone. I shall take the task myself because you were good to me, unlike your brothers. The prince and the fox journeyed on and soon reached the shores of the Red Sea. The fox tore off a gigantic leaf and shaped it into a boat with oars. Then they sat in the boat and crossed the sea. And as they reached the far side of the sea, the fox kicked the boat and it turned into a pair of golden shoes, and the fox turned into an old cobbler with a long white beard. The fox then walked to and fro in front of the beautiful palace with the golden shoes in his hands. The princess shouted down to him, "Poor cobbler, bring those golden shoes to me and I shall buy them." "I'm sorry, your highness, but I am very old and cannot climb stairs. Would you be so kind and come down to try them on?" So the princess ran down to try on the shoes. They fit her beautiful feet perfectly. Then the old man shouted, "Little shoes, take all three of us to where we want to be." And they found themselves back on the far side of the sea in a flash. Then he asked the princess, "Tell me, do you know the Red King, as we came here to take you there?" "Of course I know him. I shall never marry him. I would rather die." "What would you say to the prince, your majesty?" "I should like to marry him even though he had me kidnapped." "Worry not, princess. You shall marry him and I shall marry the Red King." When they arrived back in the Red King's city, the fox did a somersault and changed into a pretty princess, much like the other. When the Red King saw the princess, he was delighted. He gathered all his ministers and friends and began to prepare for a wedding feast. And as they were sitting around the table, one of the wedding guests said, "This princess is perfect, except for one fault." The other asked, "And what is that?" The gentleman replied, "Why, she has the eyes of a fox." What girl would not be ashamed when someone says she has the eyes of a fox? The bride hid under the table, did a somersault, and turned back into the fox and ran out of the room in the greatest of haste. By the time the guests came to their senses, the fox was far, far away. The three of them continued their journey home, and as they passed the forest, they saw the place where the prince had given supper to the fox. Here the fox jumped down and said, "Do you see these figures of stone? They are your brothers, and these are their horses. How did they come to be here?" "They set their dogs on me, and so I turned them to stone. Would you like me to turn them back again?" "Of course I would. Every man loves his brothers." "Very well, I will turn them back, but you may be sorry I did." The fox then walked over and patted the stone statues. "Rise up and live once more." Both of them stood up, and the fox said, "Well, dear prince, I shall travel no further with you." They bid farewell to each other, and the fox left. The four of them travelled home together, but they soon began to quarrel. Was it fair the youngest son should marry first? So the two princes decided to kill their youngest brother. The eldest prince cut off his head with his sword. The fox knew this would happen, and it ran to find the head a distance from the body. It ran hither and thither and saw a snake with leaves in its mouth. "Hey, snake, give those leaves to me." "I will not. It took me 7 long years to find them." The fox stamped on the snake's tail, and it dropped the leaves on the ground. The fox picked the leaves up and ran to the prince. It rubbed the leaves on the prince's neck and put his head back in its proper place. The prince opened his eyes. "Oh, what a deep sleep I had. You fell asleep for eternity, but I saved your life. I told you your brothers would kill you and rob you of your wife. Take better care in the future. Godspeed." And then the fox vanished. The boy arrived home to his father with a little bird in his shirt. He placed the bird on top of the clock. The bird began to sing a beautiful tune, and the old king sprang to his feet like a young man once more. "Who brought this bird to me?" "It was me, father," said the youngest one. "What should I do with your troublesome brothers?" "Your Majesty, dear father, give them money and horses and let them go on their way. I never want to see them here again." And the 2 princes were banished from the land. The youngest prince married his beautiful bride, and they both lived happily ever after.